1. I'm a 25-year-old man, and in the unfortunate living arrangement of being in a 2x1 with my roommate Tim, 37. These are student apartments. I'm a student and he's not. So that's how we ended up in this situation. Tim likes the shower to be exceptionally clean, and I do mean exceptionally. Over the past few months, he's on a few occasions asked me to clean the shower. I use ask loosely, because he'll say things like, "You need to clean the shower." Or he'll interrupt me while I'm very clearly on the phone. He has never respectfully broached that request. This is the thing, the shower is clean. After I use it, it does not devolve into filth. I clean the shower after 3 or 4 uses, but apparently that's not enough. And only the shower is an issue for Tim. He doesn't clean after himself in the kitchen, he doesn't sweep. He leaves his weed ashes on the bathroom sink, etc. Most of all, that cleaning I do, and I don't make a fuss about it. Today I go in the bathroom and the toilet seat is covered in urine. The bowl had not been flushed, I forgot about it, but then I returned to it several hours later, and I was still irked. I asked Tim, "Why is there urine on the toilet?" And he says to me, "Why is there dirt in the shower?" He then very strongly implied, if not outright stated, that since I left the shower dirty, he would and could leave urine on the toilet. I was honestly gobsmacked because this grown man can't say, "Yawati, can you clean the shower?" He instead pees everywhere like a dog to make a point, and really it makes me wonder if all his mess in the kitchen and elsewhere is also in service of trying to make a point. I asked him directly to clean the toilet. He said he would, and a couple of hours later, it's still as it was. So I think the man is completely unreasonable, and I'm unsure of how to proceed. This is the latest and most egregious, but it's not the only example of his passive aggressiveness. He does little things all the time to send a message, usually about the upkeep of things. Once he obviously thought I needed to take out the trash, so he took the full bag and left it on the front stoop, and I wanted to see how long he'd leave it out there. It was at least 24 hours. Mind you, the dumpster is literally a few paces from our ground-level apartment. Honestly, I've never had such a contentious roommate relationship before, and I'm unsure if he'll even respond well to direct communication, because the maturity is lacking. I could ignore everything and him. I could tell him that if he'd like me to clean the shower, he can ask me respectfully, or I could clean the shower after every use, even though I'm sure he would somehow have a problem with it still. I just have a few more months in this lease, and after this I'm running away and never looking back. But I don't know this man or what he can or will do. Yesterday the trash is on the stoop, today he's peeing everywhere. What's tomorrow? And that concerns me. So what do I do? Hellfreezer's note. This is not about the shower. It's about control. You're much younger than him, and he doesn't like the fact that he is probably dependent on you to continue to exist in the apartment you're sharing together. So although there's only 12 years between you, he's acting like an overbearing parent. I just say write it out. I wouldn't go out of your way to make things neat for him, but, don't go out of your way to make things difficult either. As you say, it's just a few months, and then you're home free. 2. In college, I, a 21-year-old woman, was living in an off-campus apartment while going to university. My lease was about to be up, and I was going to resign but needed a roommate. I ended up rooming with my co-worker and acquaintance, a 22-year-old man, and a random, Jack, also 22 and male. I had requested a girl, but got paired with Jack. Everything was cool for the first few months. Jack was going to become a school cop, had a long-term committed girlfriend, and was overall nice and respectful. One morning I was getting ready for work, making my coffee and lunch, when Jack comes out of his room. This was my other part-time gig, and I started my mornings pretty early, so I was usually alone in the kitchen. His eyes were completely bloodshot, and he was acting strange. I don't remember what he said initially, but I remember thinking that he may have been on acid. He's asking me and telling me weird things, that I would be pregnant with twins, a boy and a girl, this year, what my religion was, and that I needed to come into his bedroom to see Jesus. I'm tweaked and obviously uncomfortable, as I'm not saying a word. He grabs my arm, not in an aggressive way, more so follow me, and leads me to his room. Jack was a big hulking figure of a man, and I'm 21, 5'1" girly. I'm scared, but again, he's on acid, and I don't want to freak him out. He picks me up off the ground and tells me to touch the light in his closet. Puts me down, and I repeatedly was saying, I have to leave for work. Please, don't leave or do anything stupid. I did care for him. He was a good guy, and I didn't think he would ever hurt me. I was thinking that I should call his girlfriend, but thought that she may be on acid too, so I didn't want to scare her either. I had recently had an extremely scary trip. I called my coworker roommate, who was, of course, in Europe for 2 weeks. I got home from work around 2 p.m., but had sort of forgotten about Jack in that morning. I walk up to the door, and the light bulb by the front was shattered all over our mat. I unlocked the door, but was hesitant to go in, so I say his name a few times, with no response. I go in, and there's blood droplets that led to his door. I'm wigged out, so I go over to my room, but am stopped by my coworker's Ariana Grande poster that was taped to his door, ripped to 1,000 shreds all over the ground. I turn around to my door and notice that there are 3 huge holes there from someone punching it. I am absolutely floored at this point. I pack some things and leave immediately. I go to the front office and am hysterical. They tell me my neighbor had called the cops on him because he knocked on their door, naked, and was trying to talk to them about Jesus. Hallelujah. I called his girlfriend after I had left, and she said she had no idea where he was or what had happened. She called me the next day telling me that he was in a mental institution. I questioned everything, and she didn't have an answer for any of it. Fast forward a few days, and I'm moving the last few boxes of my stuff to my new place when Jack gets home from the bin. Thankfully, my friends and family were there. Jack was talking openly and loudly, saying that he cleansed for 3 days for Jesus. No food, no water, no sleep for 3 days. I didn't engage with him. Finished what we had, and I never looked back. A few months later, one of my other co-workers, Jack, same name as my crazy roommate, had been shot and killed by the police. When I saw it on the news, the story sounded wildly familiar. Black guy goes around naked to random doors trying to talk about Jesus, only this time met with a meat cleaver. When the cops arrive, he refuses to drop the weapon and was ultimately shot. It didn't register until after I read the entire article that it was my old coworker Jack, and not my lunatic ex-roommate. To add to the weirdness, coworker Jack was also studying to become a cop at the same university. Maybe something they talked about in a lecture. Some messed up coincidence. 3. I'm convinced our roommate is a physical form of Satan. Long story short, my girlfriend's friend, Ashley, was desperately trying to find a place to live within budget in Colorado. Me and my girlfriend's lease at our apartment was ending, and we figured we could save some money and help Ashley out by agreeing to rent a home together. All 3 of us co-signed a lease and paid $1,000 deposit. I didn't realize how bad of a decision I made. We moved in at the beginning of December 23, and things were okay, at first. However, Ashley began demanding some pretty outlandish things. She demanded that she, at all times, had a spot in the driveway. Neither my girlfriend and I were allowed to park in the garage, which was nearly impossible to begin with because Ashley filled it with her junk. She's threatened to call the police on people I have over that she doesn't like or want inside the house. As time went on, Ashley then began demanding that my girlfriend and I move our dishes and glassware into storage, because she didn't have enough room for the 20-plus mugs she collected. Soon it would be that my girlfriend and I used too much of the fridge, and eventually she even put locks on her bedroom and bathroom door, accusing us of going through her items. Time went on. Arguments were made, and yesterday night she calls me and my girlfriend into the living room, stating that she accepted a job in Wichita, Kansas, and that she called our landlord and paid the $5,000 fee to break our lease, essentially giving us 10 days to find another place to live before we had to vacate the home at the end of April. Reasonably, I was furious. No discussions prior to this, no heads up, nothing. I checked my lease and it appears that nothing illegal was done, however. I'm still baffled that she'd be willing to displace me and my girlfriend, who essentially saved her from having to move back to Texas with her family. Luckily, my landlord is willing to let me and my girlfriend apply for the house. Currently figuring out what to do, part of me feels relieved that I will no longer have to deal with her, and another feels very angry that I now have to scrape together another deposit for an apartment or house, and possibly have to move again. To clarify a few things, I've read through my lease 3 times tonight. I have not been able to locate any specific language stating that any sole tenant can break the lease. I didn't specify, but Ashley is spoiled, and her parents do not solely support her. They do, however, bail her out whenever she's in trouble, so yes, her parents forked over the $5,000 so that she can move for a new job opportunity. We've known Ashley for about 2 years prior to moving in together. Finally, as a few people who have heard this story have stated, this is one side to a long, long story. I will say I have lived with roommates in the past, both male and female, and have never had the issues I had during the time in this house. I'm just stating what me and my girlfriend have been through, despite trying to accommodate our roommates' every demand. 4. I'm a 27-year-old man. Got a roomie, 30-year-old male, for my apartment that I previously rented by myself to help save money. That part has been nice, but I am truly paying for it in other ways. For reference, he has his own 12-month lease. I cannot tell him to peace out. The roomie Hubert moved in about 2 months ago, and every single day I have regretted letting him. He isn't a stranger. I knew him for a bit from years ago, and kept up with each other on Facebook. But I wish I would have picked a random stranger over him because I can't imagine them being much worse. I don't know what else I can do. Talking has not worked. I will just make a list, not in any specific order of severity. Please listen to his behavior at the end of this post, is what freaks me out the most. 1. He is messy, very messy, leaves trash and cans everywhere, his clothes, etc. I have asked him to clean up after himself many times. When he moved in, he noticed that I kept things clean. Not bananas level, just normal clean. And he promised he would help make sure to not make things messy. He does. It got to the point where I started storing my dishes under my bed because he kept using them and not cleaning them. I also store my laundry detergent there because he thinks he has a right to it and won't buy his own. I have started to put his messes in a bag and put it at his door if the mess is blocking common spaces that I need to use. I refuse to throw his trash away or put his things away. He is 30. I am not a maid. 2. The bathroom. He aims and misses. I had to ask him for weeks to clean up after himself before he started doing it. He is constantly clogging the toilet and used my toilet brush to unclog it and then left it covered in poop in its holder afterwards. There was poop water everywhere and he did not clean it. He leaves water all over the floor after showers and does not clean his beard trimmings. Also will not participate in buying toilet paper. 3. Noise. He sings and plays music very loudly at inappropriate times. I have asked him to stop, and sometimes he does. But why are you screaming at midnight when we share walls with others? Why do I have to ask him each time to stop, and he hasn't gotten the hint that singing loudly at nighttime isn't a good idea? The other night neighbors were yelling at him to stop singing so loud, and instead of stopping, he recorded them yelling and played it back for them even louder. He acted like they were the issue and expected me to agree. 4. Food. He leaves it around and lets it mold in the fridge. He does not seem to care or notice. 5. Smell. There is a nasty smell coming from his room, and I have asked him to investigate it, but he says nothing is there. There's something, and it makes the whole place stink if I don't spray stuff or light candles. Thermostat. It is summer-level weather here, 80 Fahrenheit. We do not have to pay for air, mind you. It is included. I have a fluffy dog, Ozzy, and a fluffy hamster. I keep the temp at about 68 Fahrenheit. And usually it's warmer than that because the AC isn't the best. If it gets above 72, my pets start panting, because usually that means it's close to 80. Again, bad thermostat. Also, we control the air of the studio apartment next to us, so what we set the temp at is what the studio will be. Hubert keeps turning off the AC and letting it go to 80. If I'm not home, he will let it go so hot that my pets get distressed. My friend will go in my apartment sometimes to walk my dog if I'm stuck at work, and she will have to set the AC back on because it will be so hot inside. Mind you, the other apartment is suffering as well due to this. I have asked him over 4 times to not do this and explained why. Last night he put the heat on. Again, it is summer weather where I live. 7. Behavior. He is odd. Not fun odd, off-putting odd. I knew him before, but not well enough to know he was like this at all. For the first month and a half, so he lit just kind of stopped. He would sleep on the couch and spend all his time on the couch, making it so I would have to ask for him to clean up and go to his room if I wanted to be in my own living room. I will walk into our apartment and he will be half naked asleep on the couch. I had to move my blankets and pillows for decoration to my room because he made them stink. This isn't a don't exist in our apartment thing. I've had roomies before, I don't mind sharing space, but he takes it over. He is on stimulants and depressants. He will act almost manic sometimes, saying and doing odd things, like accusing me of going through his stuff and saying there are strangers coming in the apartment when he isn't here. He will watch through the peephole as if someone is going to be there. He leaves his light on 100% of the time, which is his own business. I just think it's odd to sleep with the overhead light on, so I'm mentioning it, if anyone can explain why he does this stuff. There's also those hotel-sized alcohol bottles everywhere. When his room door is opened and I pass a glance in, it's disgusting in there. Pill bottles and alcohol bottles all over the floor, plus trash and food. Again, not my room, so he can be messy in it. But there's a smell, and I'm including it to show overall behavior. He lost his key for a bit, and then when he found it in his pants, he was and still is convinced me or someone else went into his room and put the key in his pants pocket. Weird. As I write this, he is going in and out of the door, looking around as if there are people waiting, or as if he's hearing things. I can't move out right now, cannot afford it, and I just moved in late last year and I love my place. Everything in it is mine, so I'd have to move everything all over again. I get anxious knowing he's alone at the apartment with my animals, anxious that he acts so erratic and thinks there are strangers or even me going through his stuff, anxious that he appears to be abusing medication or alcohol. Won't say he is for sure, but I have a suspicion. I have to go visit family in about a month and will be leaving my dog at home. My best friend comes over to spend time with her and take her out, and I am genuinely worried he is going to leave food out or heat on and she's going to get sick, and that I'll come back to a disaster of an apartment. I'm also worried about him potentially going through my stuff if he thinks I'm messing with his. I don't think he's done anything worthy of the apartment complex kicking him out. Talking with him does not work. I can't move out, I don't know what to do. Update. Things escalated pretty quickly. A lot happened all in one day. Felt worthy of an update. I'll break it down event by event. I also have most of this recorded in my voice memo app because I got freaked out and wanted to keep track. I wake up at 2 a.m., had gone to sleep very early the night before, and heard Rumi come home from what I assume is work. He does nights, and I hear him mumbling about. I don't think much of it, maybe he's on the phone. At 4 a.m. I leave my room, all the lights are on, cans and food on the coffee table. He is sitting with his computer, he stinks. He apologizes for making noise, because he claims there have been people yelling at the door harassing him, and he was arguing with them back and giving them crap. Says there was a woman at the door yelling at him about vulgar things of an adult nature involving people who aren't adults. Which, what the hell? He claimed that someone went into his room while he was gone and opened his window, and then closed it. Reason? There was a fly in his room, and it was a tad bit cooler. He tried to show me a recording of people yelling at him, but when he played it, there was nothing there. It was white noise. 8 a.m. I go to the kitchen to make some food. Context, kitchen is behind the living room, so he's on the couch this whole time. While I'm doing so, and says to me, "Don't take that dude's advice, it's not going to work." I am obviously confused. I'd been in my room folding laundry and watching Ghost Adventures. I ask, what's he talking about? And he does not answer, so I continue on. 20 minutes later, I go back to the kitchen and he's mumbling towards the door, saying, "Why don't you try me?" and things like that while recording the door, as if someone is on the other side of it. There isn't, mind you. I have a dog. She will alert when anyone is at the door, even if they don't knock. I always know when someone is here because she goes to the door. He then drops a finger gun at the door. 9 a.m. He says there are people trying to talk to me outside the door. I don't hear anything. I go over and open the door. No one there, so I close it. I go back to my room, very creeped out. 9:08 a.m. He asks me if there is a third person in the apartment. I say there is not, because there is not. 9:38 a.m. He asks to speak to me, claims that he knows what I'm doing, and claims that I am purposefully scheming to get him kicked out by making him seem crazy. I'm talking to the other outside the door about him to provoke him, that I'm part of this whole harassment thing he thinks is going on. He says I'm trying to psych him out by acting like I don't hear anything, trying to pretend that he is insane. He says that because I don't like him as a roomie, I am trying to get him to seem crazy and institutionalized. He seems to have recordings of me talking to a man about him and about how to get him kicked out. He plays it, there is nothing there. He then plays another part, and once again nothing. He claims it says, "The essay of an adolescent boy." That really freaked me out. I was a victim of an SA only 4 days ago. Hearing him say that really bothered me. I told him I didn't hear anything, which was a mistake, because he started to act like I'm lying, as if I want to paint him as stupid or crazy. It got to the point that I just got so freaked out that I left and locked myself in my room. 10 a.m., he comes to my door to try and talk to me. I'm on my bed, frozen in anxiety. He kept saying, "I know what you're trying to do. We can work it out. Let's just talk." I do not. 11 a.m., my sister comes over because she wanted to see me after my essay and wanted to talk to me about roomie issues. I had been discussing this with her all morning as it happened. We went into my room, and we could hear him mumbling and talking to himself. She was freaked out too. She saw his room when passing by and noticed all the travel alcohol on the ground, the filth, the smell. 12 p.m. My sis takes me out to do some shopping, get out of the house, and Rumi calls me. I answer the phone, and he asks me when I will be home. I'm annoyed and say I don't know. He says, "I think there's someone trying to break in." I know there is not. At this point, I've been so anxious and bothered and annoyed that I say, "If you think someone is breaking in, then call the cops. Bye." I said it and meant it sarcastically, but he actually does it. Fast forward to 5 p.m. and my sis and I get back to the apartment. The air is off again and it's hot as hell inside. Then the cops show up, so he probably waited a few hours to call, or they didn't come for a few hours. They ask him about the people trying to break in. He cannot describe them. My sister steps in and the cops ask to talk to her, so she goes outside. She is experienced in social work and police, so she felt better her talk than me. She explained everything about him hearing things, seeing things, abusing meds and alcohol. The cops get a mental health responder to come to the apartment. She talks to Rumi, me, and my sis. I end up talking to the cops too. After explaining everything that has been going on and after they talk to him, they decide to take him in for an evaluation. Later on, around 7 p.m. tonight, I got a call saying he was going to be an inpatient for psychiatric evaluation and care, so would not be back here tonight. Don't know how long he will be there, but I hope he gets the help he needs. He called the cops on imaginary people and ended up calling them on himself. Very thankful he took my sarcastic response seriously. Today has been mentally exhausting. Not sure what will happen next, but I think this is a good first step. He is a bad roomie, but he is also, clearly, very mentally unwell and needs serious help. Hellfreezer's note. All I can say is, thank goodness, this seems to be a somewhat positive ending. And I think what was happening with the booze and the substances is that he was self-medicating. He obviously knew something wasn't right. That was his way of dealing with it. And that never has positive results. It certainly can't go on long term. So hopefully he gets properly evaluated. They're able to at least begin the process to figure out what kind of medication he needs to help him get right. And that, well, as you say, you can't move out. So if he does end up coming back, that he's at least a better roomie afterward. 5. I'm a 24-year-old woman. Up until recently, I've been living with 2 other women. Tara, 33, and Desiree, 29, who is also the owner of the house. Tara and Desiree were upstairs and I was in the basement, which was basically an apartment. I like both of them as people and have never had fights with either. We have had some issues with common space cleanliness, but nothing dramatic. A week ago, Desiree sends me a text while she's on a trip out of state, letting me know she kicked Tara out because she is psychotic and that I needed to make sure she had left the house by 3 the next day. A little bit later, we talk on the phone and she tells me her reasoning. As I'm helping her pack, Tara tells me a completely different story and that she's moving out because they didn't agree on the living arrangement, so someone's lying. I haven't had beef with either roommate, so I really have no reason to be taking sides. Desiree then tells me she is readjusting and raising my rent by $300 and that Tara's old room will be significantly less, and gave me the option to move there, which I took. Now that I'm upstairs with Desiree, it's a whole different situation and ridiculous rules, and I'm beginning to believe she's the crazy one. In just this week alone, I've experienced loud phone and in-person conversations. I can hear through the wall, including what I'm pretty sure is drug use when they're with her friend group. 2 guys and a girl. No pizza place, though. They're here very often. Listening to her full-volume Taylor Swift playlist at odd hours. Rearranging of my personal belongings, including taking down decor because it ruined the aesthetic of the room, which is furnished. Got reprimanded for sleeping on the couch in my room because it's unhygienic. She walked in while I was asleep and woke me up. Her walking in on me and my girlfriend naked while the door was closed and I did not invite her in. I discovered that Tara and I were the only ones cleaning things in the common spaces, and she never cleans up after herself if she cooks. Dealing with her Airbnb guests, which she didn't tell me about at the last minute because she was unprepared and wanted to stay out with friends. Every other day she goes to the clubs, comes back extremely inebriated, then unsurprisingly gets sick the next morning. When she's not at the clubs, she continues to drink all day and night until she yaks. In all honesty, I'm mainly concerned about Desiree. She seems to have an issue with alcohol to the point it's causing other areas of her life to suffer. The walls are thin, and I've heard a lot. On the outside, the girl seems to have it all. But based on my observations, her mental health is not okay, and I think I'm the only one who knows that. I'm not even sure if I know how to go about talking to her about this, so I'm not entirely sure how she will react. I'm worried that Desiree is an alcoholic and could potentially have a mental disorder due to her need to have things a certain way. I suspect the reasons I've listed is what contributed to Tara leaving. I want to say something, but Desiree kinda scares me after seeing this side of her. This is my first time away from home, and I've never had a situation like this happen before, so please give me advice. Hellfreezer's note, that's pretty easy. Start looking for another place. When you find a viable place to move to, move out. It doesn't really matter if Desiree expects notice because she was willing to raise the rent on you by $300 with no notice. You might want to look into your renter's agreement if there is one, to see if whether or not that was permissible. Can't imagine why it would be. And I know you probably consider this woman a friend. I've been where you are. I've seen a friend being self-destructive. They've had mental issues. They've had alcohol issues. You can't force them to change. There's really no point talking to them about it because they're not going to listen to you. They might tell you enough to placate you, but they're never going to get the help they need until they decide they need help, and they'll have to probably hit rock bottom pretty hard in order to realize they need that help. Ultimately, in the end, you're the one who's going to get hurt, you're going to get stressed out, so just wash your hands of it. Walk away as much as you can. Trust me, I did that, and the sheer drop-off levels in my stress, which was already pretty high for other reasons, it was a great benefit to me to not have to worry about that anymore. So that's where I am, and I hope you can, and I hope you find a lovely place to move into as soon as possible. Best of luck. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Bad Roommates, episode 14. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please hit the like button. It helps YouTube recommend the videos to other people. So let's help YouTube out and let them know that it's worth recommending me to other people. If you'd like to get these videos a bit earlier, get them on the Monday, then you can support me on my Patreon page for as little as $1 or more if you'd like a month by clicking on the link in the description. You'll also find a link to the Hellfreezer merchandise store on Teespring. I did just upload a new hoodie. I'm going to have to check that it's actually been published. It's a tie-dye thing. I don't think it was, so I might end up removing and relisting it. But there's plenty of other nice merchandise on the site already. And you'll also find a link to the Hellfreezer Discord if you'd like to join us over there. And of course, if you really enjoyed today's video, then why not leave a tip by clicking on the heart with the $sign underneath. None of that is ever necessary, but I do appreciate it, and it helps me out a lot if you choose to do so. Okay, no other business today. I don't think so. I think we've got a shout out next week. But for now, let's move along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is something you really enjoy, but it's just too much effort when it would be most beneficial. I hope that's the right way to phrase that. Like, I like crushed ice with fresh orange juice, like in a mason jar with a straw. So lovely on a hot summer's day. However, on the days when I would benefit from it most, it's hot and it's just so much effort to get up and have to do that. Ugh. And oh, darn it, I don't have any fresh OJ in. I'd have to go to the shops and buy some. So that's mine. Why don't you let me know what some of yours are in a comment below? And before we go, we'll have the answer of the day from a previous video. And as I record this, Bad Roommates 12 hasn't been published, so no answers for that. So we're going to take this one from Revenge's Ice Cream 246. And this is in relation to what is the weirdest thing you can make a fence out of that still qualifies as a fence. And today's answer comes from Witchy Nicole. Recycled house shutters, so they would be stylish, and give you privacy at the same time. It's a good idea, keep those nosy neighbors out. Thank you very much for your answer, Nicole. And with that, I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.